could possibly go wrong?
Well, that's a great start to this. What could possibly go wrong? We are live with Sean Toulon, who is a grandfather now.
I am.
That's got to be enjoyment that you never expected.
You know what you get when you become a grandpa?
Old.
You get vests like this. I feel like I dressed up like a gentleman rancher today, but but all this happens. Anyways, yeah, no, it's the best. Jojo, my son, Joey has blessed us with two little grand boys. So just awesome.
And the other ones do not have children as of yet.
No.
Tony will definitely have children, though. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think so.
We have the list populating. Everybody's coming in to join us. Before
Right.
we get started taking questions, I kind of wanted to ask you, there's a lot of people who know you from Callaway and Odyssey, but they don't realize that before that there was Toulon Design. Before that there's been a long tenured career here. Not long like you're ancient, long like you've been doing the golf thing for a long time. Can you kind of walk everybody through like how you got started in golf and then the different companies you've been with?
Well, I think I got started in golf like so many people got started in golf as a caddy when I was a little kid growing up. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin. I went from kindergarten all the way through college within 10 minutes of each other. So proud graduate of University of Wisconsin in Madison. But I caddied as a kid and was a pretty good player, good enough to make the Wisconsin golf team as a freshman. And then we got a new coach named Dennis Tiziani. And you guys, many will know that name. But he's Steve Stricker's father-in-law. And he was also a very good recruiter. So the second year, I was not good enough to play on the team. So I did what any guy who couldn't make the team would do. I turned pro and I gave lessons. So I primarily to kids and women, which was awesome while I was in school. And yeah, just
I just noticed that the missus is tuned into this. I don't know what you want to, you got to be careful saying some stuff.
All good. She knows. So I used to give group lessons to women. And I would set these up. So I worked at a range in Madison called Vitance, which some of your people will know that. But it was a busy range. And all the guys that were teaching pros, they all wanted to teach the good players. And I said, well, heck, they can have the good players. I'll take all the beginners and all the women. We had so much fun. So I would do 4. You'd sign up for 4 1-hour group lessons, and I would have 12 women. And I was their cute little golf pro at the time. I was probably 20, whatever, 1, wearing my Sansabelts, looking pretty, Josh. And it was like they would come, and it would be like pre-happy hour. And then I would have another group that would, I'm not sure they got a lot out of it, was post-happy hour.
That's a good one.
We had a blast. It was fun to be able to introduce the game to so many people. And I did that. And when I finished school, there was a little golf club company that was floundering. They forgot to tell me that when I interviewed, called TaylorMade. It was about a $10 million company at the time. They
Just
wanted
like
me
now.
It's unbelievable, huh? What they forgot to tell me is they were also 15 minutes from bankruptcy, which is true. But I became the sales rep in Wisconsin, Minnesota, North and South Dakota. And I did that for like 5 years, left after a really awesome time, started a couple of golf companies on my own, sold both of those. The second one, I've skipped way ahead, being Toulon Design. But after I had done Zevo Golf, which was one that I started with Kathy and sold that. We did well, thankfully. I went to work for Cobra for a very short period of time and reported directly to Wally Uline, which was interesting. He's very different than me. I would say that was a very painful 11 and a half months of my life. So we didn't align well. And I got recruited to go back to TaylorMade to be in charge of product. And I did that for 16 years, retired. 2 of my kids talked me into starting a putter company, which I thought they were crazy. But they wanted to start a high-end putter company that could compete against Scotty Cameron, who was a friend of mine at the time. We're still friends, but It's a different relationship now than it used to be. And about 8 months into that, we were doing awesome. I got a call from Chip and Harry Arnett, and lo and behold, they bought Toulon Design and brought us in to run that and all of Odyssey. So it's been fun to be back.
So when you left, well, first when you sold Zevo, is that when the love of cars and your exotic cars came to be?
No, that came from my dad, my dad was, I would say, a top 10 amateur race car drivers in America when, I was very, as a kid, I was a baby. We ended up
They
having
had cars back then?
they did, but he raced Porsches back then, and then ended up having a Porsche dealership in Madison with a
cool.
partner. So that's where the whole car thing came from, and he passed that on to me. And my wife wishes he wouldn't, but he did. And
somebody asked what your favorite car is.
Well, but whatever my next one is, but I primarily like sports cars, and I primarily, not always, but primarily like European ones, and so Porsches, Ferraris, stuff like that. That's what really gets me jacked.
So when we started working together, you were still at TaylorMade, but
Yeah.
we got to work closer when you were at Toulon Design, and now obviously here. You've had a lot of cars in that transition, but we won't head down that path. When you were at TaylorMade, did you ever think you would be at Callaway?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? No, that would be, if you were at the Yankees, would you ever imagine, someday playing for the Red Sox or vice versa? No, never thought ever in my wildest dreams. I mean, it just was, our largest competitor. And no, you were sort of, you weren't taught, but you just sort of learned to hate each other for no good reason.
And it's funny, in this business that's so incestuous, I could do the 6 degrees of separation with you while you were at TaylorMade, and basically everybody who's running R&D in all of golf, or products, I should say, worked for you.
Well,
I don't mean that as a thing, but you go to Titleist, Marnie's there. You go to Cobra, you have T.O. and Jose. You go to Callaway, obviously you're there. TaylorMade still has B Squared there. That it's true.
Yeah. Great people.
And I don't say that as a slight to other places. I say that as you clearly did a good job there. But one thing that people, they know you now as a putter guy, and you are a putter guy, but you are not just a putter guy. You're industrial design as a whole. Yeah. How influential is that on products?
Oh, it's massively important. People
see drivers behind you that they're not supposed to see, but they can't zoom in and see those.
They'll never know which ones are the moles. I would say, I used to say to Benoit, now I say to Alan Hocknell, and they're both. So I've spent my life working for foreign doctors, or working with foreign doctors, right? PhDs, but their job is to make these things work at a different level. And now they're more and more complicated than they've ever been. But it's my job and the job of my team to make these products look unbelievable, right? So, I always tell people buy in golf, consumers, golfers, we buy with emotion and justify with logic. So it's their job to make them work. It's my job to make them look cool. And do you actually need a new driver to go play golf this afternoon? No, but it's my job and the job of my teammates to make you feel like you do. And it's a highly emotional proposition, but the emotion that we're trying to create it's simple. It's lust. So when you look at one, you don't say, I want to have it. I want you to be able to say, I have to have it. And when we've been able to do that as a group, what's that?
You've done that to me a few times.
Well, that's our job. That's what we try to do, and make products that people actually lust for. And we've been able to do that. So that's fun. That's what really gets me the most excited.
When's the last time you had a product that was I'll call it a Sean Toulon creation as the lead, but not in general, that you said to yourself, I need this immediately. Everybody else in the world is going to want this.
I've had it happen maybe 10 times. At Summit TaylorMade and a couple here. But I'll just tell you what, as you go through the process, and believe me, it's not me, it's me and a whole bunch of people that are working on this. But when we crack the code on something, I swear to God, I get goosebumps. And when that happens, it's unbelievable what happened. The first time I remember it happening, literally, was when I was at TaylorMade on the burner iron. Before that, I would say the R7 Quad was one, the one with movable weights. But when we cracked the code on burner irons, I remember being in the room with a bunch of people, and I took my sleeve. I said, "Look it," and I literally had goosebumps. Nobody has done this. This thing is going to be unbelievable. And if you remember, that was the first really fast-paced iron that all of a sudden brought distance to new levels.
That's going to make you a little creepy.
No, but honestly, Neil, I love you more than you can possibly imagine, buddy. But when that's,
I don't know. He imagines it a lot. I'm not sure that's true.
But when that happens, it's just so cool.
When you're looking at the Odyssey lineup, and there's a lot, you have 11, you have 10, you have Tri-Hot, you have OG. What is the thing you say to golfers rather than the standard go get fit or anything else? Because I'm still a believer. 14 years now, I still get excited about golf equipment like it was day one. Yeah. I believe it's an emotional thing, especially with putters. What's the one thing that when you say you have a big lineup like that says, you need to check this one out?
Well, I don't know if this is exactly the right answer, but I would always say this, that, when these new products come out, they come out with some sort of a promise, which, are oftentimes written by marketing people that are clever and
careful, Luke's there.
Luke's on a plane. But it's really simple. It's something that I learned a long, long time ago from Gary Adams, the fellow that founded TaylorMade. When I was starting Zevo, he said to me, "Toulon, just remember one thing. Products don't lie. They either work or they don't. And if they work, they will sell accordingly. And if they don't, they'll also sell accordingly." So I would just say to anybody, it's fine to listen to the claims and fine to listen to, whatever the story is, but go try it. And you'll know right away.
You actually said something to me years ago, and you said, you can hide a lot, but golfers aren't dumb. And while marketing can ruin a product, it's not going to elevate it past a certain point unless it's a good product.
Yeah, and marketing, believe me, people have marketed bad products successfully to some extent. But if it's a great product, if it's truly a great product, and this is a Chip Brewerism, which I couldn't agree more with, the marketplace will tell you if it's a great product. Golfers are smart. They find out. And now, Josh, they find out sooner than ever because there's much better equipment. When I started, there weren't TrackMan. Right? You used to go out on the tee behind Vijay Singh. He'd hit a driver and you go, "Oh my God, Vijay, that thing," he couldn't see that great. That thing flew over the fence at the end of the range. And, "Oh my God, did it really?" "Oh, of course it did." Right. Well, now the numbers are right there. Right. So it's launch angle and spin and descent and hang time, it's all the stuff and spin axis and all these things that go into it. And now with putters the same way. So these things either work or they don't, and you'll be able to find out. And the most important thing is, does it work for you?
I'm holding this one.
That's a goosebumper, that one.
Yeah, and when you first told me it was coming back, I was out there visiting, and I was like, okay, well, that sounds cool. It's one of those things where I've been a mallet guy my whole life. Thereabouts, I bounce around a little bit, but this one's pretty different. Can you talk a little bit about what went into this one and why it's different? Because there's multi-material putters out there, but this is not the same as, hey, we put some aluminum here and some tungsten there.
Right. Well, if you hold up that putter again, I should have one here in front of me. I've got 3,000 putters and I don't have that one. But if you look at that putter that you just had, there's 180 grams of tungsten in the front part of that putter. So if you look at the hosel part of it, which I happen to have somewhere in my drawer here, this was an early prototype. But if you just look at, this piece of it right here, this weighs about 135 grams. And that's steel, that's stainless steel. And then we put in the middle here a white hot insert that weighs about 8 grams, 7 or 8 grams. But all the weight that goes in here and in here and in the bottom here and here, that's all tungsten. And that takes the CG and pushes it much farther forward. So it's about 1/4 of an inch off the face of the putter. A typical blade is probably 1/2 an inch to a little bit more than that back. And a typical mallet is more like 1.1 or 1.2 inches off the front. And that means those putters have a tendency on the way back to want to open the putters with back CGs, and it takes a lot of force to get it back to square. So the miss bias for most players with putters that have rearward CGs is to the right. That can work really good for somebody that has a tendency to miss to the left, but most people don't. Most people will miss. More people miss to the right than left.
I feel like you're talking about me a little bit.
But what was really the trick here was to get the CG forward, which typically is the arch enemy of high MOI, but then to reimagine the construction of the putter using all the different materials to get the CG so it's actually forward, and the inertia versus other blades or even mallets goes up. So, I mean, imagine that this is a normal sized, beautifully shaped and proportioned blade with inertia that's 20% higher than a lot of the high MOI mallets that are out there.
Yeah, that's the part that really is crazy. And while I think MOI in general has become almost too much of a buzzword because companies are using it for everything, some companies are using it for everything. And there is a point of no return.
Yeah.
What you guys have done with this one is so unique because it really hasn't been seen like that before. It's been popular on our forum, that's for sure. We're going to start jumping into questions and we're going to go rapid fire, okay?
Awesome. I'm ready.
First one, thoughts on DLT versus White Hot?
Very, very different technologies, Tyler. I get freaked out on anything where there's a change in loft, therefore a facet, because at some point, you read about the dimple effect, and I've had in-depth conversations with Bryson on the dimple effect, and so that's a bit of a head scratcher to me. White hot insert has got. Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to ask you this because something that pops into my head a lot about not just DLT because it's a different company and everything else, but those type of technologies in general is when things are being tested internally, wouldn't that change every time based on where the dimples and surface area of the putter is impacted? Okay.
and so products don't lie. Just, if it works for you, great. What's really cool about White Hot, and the reason why we brought it back is, the reason why we brought it back is we couldn't get tour players out of it. So we keep trying to make it better and better and better. And, we would say to a player, this is almost just like White Hot, but it does this. And they go, yeah, that's really good, but I want White Hot. So, and what White Hot does is it gives you a sound and feel that varies based on the length of your putt. Feels very soft and is quite quiet on a short putt, and on a longer putt you get way better feedback. So what golfers have been able to do, the really good players, and it's why it's so popular, is they've been able to really dial in their speed and distance control with White Hot, and they're just not willing to give it up.
So jumping back in, does the weighting on the perimeter keep the face stable as well through the stroke, going back to the Tri-Hot?
Yes, totally, Matt. Yes. Yep, that would be one of its great benefits. And I will also tell you, Stroke Lab shafts help that a lot. Not a little, a lot. When I say a lot, we get excited as a club design geek when we get to talk about a 2% or a 3% improvement in really key metrics. Stroke Lab shaft, it's 12, 13, up to 20% better than steel on really key metrics. So it's the real deal. That's why you see so many of them on TV.
I'm no math wizard, but that sounds better. Jordan asked about tour players, and you've worked with them for decades. Sometimes you see them using the newest line of putters, sometimes you don't. How do you approach them to try out the latest, both Toulon and Odyssey, and why is he trying to get Joe fired?
So this is really cool because I talk to our tour rep, as you might imagine, a couple of times a day. I bother him so much. A lot of times he doesn't take my call, which I remind him, I am still your father. So, but that doesn't seem to really affect him that much.
No, probably not.
So obviously we want people into the new products, but they need to be demonstrably better for them. And we don't pressure them. I'd love to have Xander out of that red one. Finally, he is, knock on wood, that he stays into the new silver White Hot OG. But I mean, the White Hot OG that we launched this year is his putter. But it doesn't have the same dings and scratches and red color. And sometimes
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You made me a green one that looks like I put it through a meat grinder and I still
know,
use
but
it.
it's like, Xander, come on, man. Throw us a bone or something. But so we try, but we can only try so hard. And the other part of it that gets difficult, and I think the question was from Jordan, is 70% of the putters we have in play are in play by people that are not obligated to play our putter. So,
right.
We don't have a lot of, we're honored that they play it. They're playing it because it works better for them. But, we can't really put our arm around a guy that's not being paid and say, we really need you in the new one. Now, if it performs better, we'll try to prove that to him.
This is a really interesting question that I'm not sure I've ever asked you before about milled versus insert. Is there a certain person it's better for, or is it just a feel preference?
Yeah, I think
because you can make an insert feel like anything.
Yeah, you can. A milled putter just has a level of sound and feedback and responsiveness that's really difficult to get out of a putter with an insert. So for me, the players that have grown up with a milled face, they really prefer that. It's almost like White Hot, so if somebody has grown up with a milled putter and, you get your sound and your feel and, hey, Josh, if I hit it this hard, I know exactly where that ball is going to end up. You get that, which we have the same thing happening with White Hot. And so to me, that really is personal preference. We have also done everything so far that we know how to do to try to make White Hot OG and the future things that we're working on, certainly Tri Hot, to look more premium, because milled putters just have a tendency to look more premium. They do because they're more expensive and you can finish them differently. But, there's an overall look of the fit and finish and quality of a milled putter that a lot of castings don't really measure up to. We're trying to change that and trying to make the entire line look better. I tell the guys all the time, guys, it doesn't cost more to really care. Let's pay attention to the details and let's get this stuff right. And I think you see it. The lineup, I think, is looking. Yeah, I'm proud of it. It's looking better and better. It will continue to get better.
This is a great question because they're all like kids to you.
They are.
Favorite head shape in the Toulon line? Let's hear it.
I love our Austin. I do. And
but it's got that pirate on the bottom.
We have a new one. It's right here that at some point will come out. That's really cool that Joe did. Tone's been working on some stuff. Luke's been doing some work. Patrick Dawson, who works with us, and another guy named Keith Kingston. We've got lots of cool stuff that we're working on. But I mean, if you're asking me right now, I love Austin, and honestly, I love this Palm Beach still, which isn't in the line right now.
That's the one you putt with, right?
I sleep around a little. I do not have a monogamous relationship with a putter.
What's interesting is last time we did an event and Sean played, he had to take out like 5 clubs out of his 14 because they were all a year ahead of time.
Well, it's fun.
So Dan's been wanting to ask you this for a long time. I spoke to Jeff about it. He didn't really know. Long neck option coming to the garage soon. And why are you about to blow his mind?
Hold on. So I have it in here somewhere, Dan. I think I've hidden it. Maybe. Maybe. So we just launched something called Major Runs. So I'm sure a lot of your members have seen the small batch program and project that we do, which has just been awesome for us. And it, it's great for us because we get to play around and break some rules and have fun with some funky branding and create new shapes and new designs and all kinds of stuff. And we sell them, and that's awesome. But we're launching something called Major Runs. And the first one we're going to launch here in, it'll be at retail on 3/25. There'll be 4 drops. There'll be about 500 units that get sold in the US, about 750 worldwide. They're going to be a lot. They're still expensive, but they're a lot less money than a small batch. And the first one I'll tell you is just a beautiful pintail blade called Magnolia. And you might imagine that might launch in the first part of April.
That's what a weird
I know.
thing there.
It's you'll see that here shortly. That's really cool. But Dan, to answer your question, our third drop that we do might have a neck that's longer than normal, and that'll be probably sometime in June or July.
Dean asks why the different insert shape on the one putter than we see in the double or triple wide.
Yeah, because the insert weighs like 6 or 7 grams, and when it's small, but it replaces about 30 or 40 grams of metal. And when we go to a larger insert, it weighs about 10 grams, but it replaces about, my math isn't quite right here, but directionally you'll get it. It replaces about 40 or 50 grams of metal. So if we go with a normal size insert, we got to find a home for a lot of weight. And so if you look at a number 1, in order to do that, we'd have to make it really, really big and bulky. So here I have a number 3 here. Yep. So here's a number 3, which it drives the point across. So that's got the smaller insert. And, these putters, we try to make them look, like they're tour putters, right? So a certain dimension, and you can't really make them bigger. And if you start making them too fat, they just look like they should go visit Jenny Craig for a month and lose a little weight. They just don't look right. So we use a smaller insert, and then we actually go inside underneath these weights. There'll be some tungsten slugs in there to try to get the thing back to weight. So these putters have to weigh about 355 to 360 grams. So the smaller insert helps doing that. And on these putters, we do all kinds of testing. I know it looks smaller, but you'll hit the insert. You won't miss that. I promise you.
You've never seen me putt. Mike wants to know what's the hardest part with enhancing or creating the next Toulon face milling and not messing up what you already done.
I would say, and you have to be willing to try all kinds of different things. So we have a certain sound and a feel that we can measure, that we like. And when I say it's a sound, it's just not. It's a frequency, and it's the duration of the sound. So it's the frequency and the decibel levels, and we kind of have an idea of where we want to get there. But we also want to match that up with what we call the impact ratio, or in a metal wood, it would be called the ball speed, right? The COR or CT. So we try to get the sound to match up what you hear so that we can keep it in sort of this harmonic balance. So we don't want something, that sounds really quiet but jumps off the face, because that's really difficult for ball speed. So we take sound, feel, and impact ratio, try to get those things to work together, and improve the roll. It's pretty complicated stuff, actually. But we just need to stay curious and be willing to try new things. So as long as you stay open-minded, it's a process that's fun, challenging, but fun.
We're only going to keep Sean for about 5 or 10 more minutes, and we have so many questions. So if we don't get to them, post them in the thread, and I'll get them answered for you. How did you guys convince John Rahm to change his putter?
We didn't. He did, because he decided he wasn't making enough putts. So it's really simple. I'll let you in on a dirty secret. He's going back to his Rossi S this week. So I know. So, we'd like to have the number one player in the world putting with something we sell. That sounds like a good idea, right? Check that box if that's possible. But when they get putting bad, they're just like we are. They like to switch around. And, years ago when we were going to sign Rory McIlroy, we had already designed a putter and called it Roars. And then he ended up not signing with us, but we already owned about 4,000 putters. So which we can't sell. So we try, but these guys are slippery. If they're not putting well, they don't. And Rahm doesn't switch a lot, but he switches enough that he keeps us on our toes.
Ever a day when I ask this because I want to know the answer, when custom order different colors of the stroke lab?
We're doing that right now, Dean, in the garage for the Toulon stuff. So I think we have green, red, charcoal, and black. And we're dreaming of other things too. At some point, we would like to bring that into the Odyssey lineup as well. We just need to figure out, when you start to sell, right now the garage is at $600 a putter. So that I think and it's been very well accepted, and the garage is really busy. So if we were going to do that for Odyssey, and you might imagine the price point would probably go down a little bit, the volumes would go up. I don't think we'd be able to do a very good job of putting out products that we'd be really proud of. So we'll figure out how to do that at some point, but we need to be able to do it and make sure we send out tour quality putters too.
This is an interesting question. Why does it appear the choice is White Hot versus Toulon? And is it because tour players don't like you? I thought they all liked you.
Well, if some don't like me, which I get, it's been a long time, Josh, and over time you're going to piss somebody off. Which
trust me, I know.
But honestly, they love Joe. They just love Joe. Has just done such, and I know I sound like a little league dad, but he has done.
But he's good at this. He's made for this job.
I know. He's got a gift. I would say we've got anywhere around 20 to 25% of the putters in play on tour worldwide are Toulon. But the reason why so many of them are inserted putters is because that's what they've used. And when Toulon came onto the scene in 2015 or 2016 here, to use a milled putter, if you were a Callaway guy, that was, sort of forbidden fruit. So many of our players have grown up with White Hot, and that's their sound and feel and distance speed of choice. And, so they get that. So I'm good with that. I think it's a really good balance right now, what we have in play.
Shane asked, do most average players have the wrong length?
I would say, yeah, I would say about half of them probably do. And if so, usually too long or too short. I would say both. It's funny when I do these fitting days, at member guests and clubs that we get invited to do them at, I feel like I fit more players into longer putters than I do shorter ones, but I'd say it's probably pretty close to 50-50.
I got to put Neil's question up here, otherwise he might lose his mind. Is Odyssey Toulon going to do more this year that isn't specifically a putter, like soft goods, accessories, or anything else?
Yeah, we're going to continue to do, Neil, more hats. we've had supply chain issues, and when we
If
do
he
the
shows up in the window behind you, I'm going to lose my mind.
we've had supply chain issues like most of the people have, and so when we do hats or staff bags, stand bags, we do very few of them. Because I'd like to keep it fresh and keep them on the site. Let them sell out, not gouge people. Let them sell out. Bring something else in, and get people sort of in the habit of coming back and checking. So we're definitely will do more head covers, more hats, occasional stand bags. Whether or not we do, yes, I did say stand bag, Dan. We'll have some of those show up at some point here shortly, I think. But I don't know that we'll do hats or anything really outside of hats, like sweaters or shirts and things like that. But we need to do a
And we're
better
gonna
job with that stuff, because I do think there's an appetite for it, and I love the fact that people are interested in it.
we're gonna finish it with this question. You mentioned earlier that you get goosebumps sometimes with certain equipment, things like that. Is there one that didn't sell?
Yeah, yeah. EXO. EXO was an
Oh,
awesome product.
it's the Exo Marksman is my favorite putter in a long time up until this current release, and it's still right over there, and I still putt with it almost every day.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and I think now that we look back at it, it wasn't price point. I mean, it was expensive, $299, and that was early on. I think we did that in 2017. It came out, and we've been trying to make Odyssey more premium. Because I want the putters to look better. I want them to look more. I want them to be a piece of equipment that you look at and say, that thing is so awesome. And
Yeah.
I really believe that EXO was one of those. And maybe the red, aluminum truss part of it, the cage, was a little much. The tour didn't love it because they could see through it. Yeah, and I don't know, but we heard enough of that you have to go with that. But I'll say one other thing. There was a product way back when that I didn't do, that I got the opposite of goosebumps. I got the heebie-jeebies and said, there's no chance we're going to sell that product. And Tom Sismosky, if anybody remembers that name, was running tour at TaylorMade. And this was like early on. I came back in 2000. So this was like 2001. And we had started this campaign on, we were going to be the brand for the best players in the world and be the best performance brand in golf. And we had this club that was developed in the Japanese market called a Rescue. And it was this weird looking thing that nobody knew what the hell it was. And it's a hybrid. They called it a hybrid because nobody knew what it was. It wasn't a wood. It wasn't an iron. It was ugly. And he wanted to bring it out. And he says, bring it out on tour. And I said, there's no way we're bringing that thing out on tour. And I'm at home watching the Pebble Beach AT&T, and Tim Herron hits a beautiful tee shot on 18 right underneath the tree, and he takes the head cover off, and I'll go, that son of a gun, he took one of those ugly clubs out there, and Tim Herron hits the shot. The commentators are going, what is that? I don't know what kind of club that is. It's not a wood. And he flew it into the middle of the green, made the putt for eagle. And, we only sold about 5 million of them. So I get credit for a lot of things that work, but let me tell you, I've had plenty where I've screwed up. That was the biggest mess up. Oh, there you go.
Well, we want to thank everybody that tuned in and got their questions answered. Again, if you didn't get it answered, post in the thread. I'll get it answered for you. And thanks, Sean, for taking the time to do this today. I was told he figured out the whole tech thing by himself. No help needed, which is great.
Bit of an upset.
And we look forward to doing this again if you guys had fun with it.
Can I say one last thing?
Absolutely.
I just want to thank everybody on the forum, all your members, Josh. The attitude that the group shows, the level of just respect that they show one another is very, very unique in the online world. And I look, we're everybody here at Callaway. We're just like you. We love equipment. We're total golf geeks.
Well, now I have another question for you.
And anyways, we love what it is. We love what we do. We love being able to share it with you. And and the fact that you appreciate it as much as you do. And I don't mind when you say the stuff looks awful. I learn a lot from that. But just so you know, I do read what you write. But I'm good with it.
I do have a question
Good,
for
bad,
you.
ugly. I like it all.
Earlier this week, we launched the Granddaddy 2022 thread. We have a captain, we have an assistant captain, and we have a first participant. Do you want to make a prediction on how Team THP will fare this year against Nick and Jason Finley and group?
I think you're going to win, but we need a little coaching. So I invite myself to be on the THP team as like an honorary whatever.
I mean, maybe we should make that work. You have an account. We could make you a member of the team.
But I got the
How bad would you like to beat Jason Finley in this?
I would. Nothing would make me happier. And honestly, Luke, you know, Luke could get knocked down a notch or two. I mean, he's like 6'12", so I mean that wouldn't
that's
hurt.
true.
But
he is a Viking.
He is. So I wouldn't. But I tell you, McAnally is a sneaky good player.
Yeah, he is.
And Finley is just annoying.
I love Jason.
He's annoyingly good, and he's a grinder. He is a grinder, but he can be taken down. I'll help with that. But
you
we
heard
need
it here, people.
practice. Yeah. This
Sean
ain't a hobby.
Going to make sure you guys win through putter fitting and coaching, and maybe taking out somebody's kneecap if we need it. So I want to thank Sean for coming on. We're going to do this again coming up soon. This is Odyssey month with the subtle flex you guys did with those staff bags.
Well, what did you think about that?
I thought it was. I mean, you have every right to flex, but it was noticeable. That's
the reason why we did that was, like any company, we do a bunch of research, and when we asked, it was like 7,000 golfers, who's the number one putter on tour? 70% of the people said Cameron.
Really?
No offense, but honestly, sorry, Scotty,
it's not close.
We mopped the floor, and people don't know that. So I and the rest of the marketing guys here said, let's not be subtle here. Let's let people know the truth. So, hey, and they only do it. They use our putter because it performs unbelievably well. So we want people to know that.
More than half of the players using Odysseys are not sponsored, correct?
It's almost 70%.
Jeez,
I know.
That's a lot.
I know. So, anyways, hey, Scotty makes a great product. But the best performing putters in golf are made right here by us. I mean that.
I know you do. We've talked about it off air many times. So
yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. We will get with Jeff and get another one of these scheduled and get some more of these questions answered.
That's awesome. Yeah, let me know if you get stumped. I'm happy to help.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sean.
All right. See you guys.